Welcome to the Eagle Eye SEC Championship post-game show. We are here on field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Georgia Bulldogs took down the Auburn Tigers 28-7. I'm Sarah Palczewski with JJ Jackson and Evan Blank. So guys, this game was a wild one, a tough-fought battle between both teams. What's your biggest takeaway from this game?
Yeah, for me it would just be Auburn had too many careless mistakes early on in the game. The team was winning 7-0. They scored on their very first drive. And then in the second quarter, Auburn's driving with a chance to go up by either 10-0 or 14-0, and Jarrett Stidham fumbles the snap. A very critical play. Georgia then scores and doesn't look back. 28 unanswered points for the Bulldogs. Auburn had another fumble later in the game, had a blocked field goal attempt. Just a tough day all around for this Auburn team.
Yeah, and the biggest difference you have to look at between the game in the regular season and here in Atlanta tonight is the line play. Both sides of the line, Auburn got blown off all night. I think it was even most evident on special teams with that blocked field goal. The offensive line just couldn't protect Jarrett Stidham throughout the game, and the defense couldn't get pressure on Jake Fromm. Got plenty of time to throw all night. And Georgia, give them credit, they adjusted their game plan from the regular season. They ran a lot of lateral plays throughout the night to get to the edges where it hurt Auburn the most. And that's why we're standing here with the Bulldogs as SEC champions.
The game back in early November, Georgia ran for just 46 yards. Today they ran for over 200. It was clearly a point of emphasis for Georgia to run the football, what they do well. They were able to do that today. And
you know, Georgia, you got to give them credit. Like what Evan said, they adjusted their game plan, and going forward for the Bulldogs, you got to see them being able to take film, look at their other teams that they're going to play, and be able to break them down. Them being able to do this to Auburn tonight definitely makes them a dangerous threat in this postseason run that they're going to make. So with that being said, where do you guys think both teams go from here?
Yeah, for Georgia, I think that they're headed to the college football playoff. They're the SEC champion. A one-loss SEC champ deserves to be in the top 4 spots. Auburn was number 2. Georgia was number 6 heading into this. I expect Georgia to be playing in the the college football playoff next week.
Yeah, and you look at Auburn, their future's a lot more uncertain than the Bulldogs. Georgia knows they're either going to go to New Orleans or Pasadena New Year's Day. Auburn's going to play in a big New Year's Six Bowl. There's no doubt about that. But really, I look at it, there's 3 destinations they could end up in. They could be back here in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl. I think that's the least likely scenario. The 2 I'm looking at right now is going to be either the Cotton Bowl in Dallas at Jerry World, or they head down to South Beach in the Orange Bowl, where depending on how both of these championship games going on tonight are, the Big Ten and the ACC, the opponents are going to be interesting. It's going to be a big game regardless, though, for this Auburn team.
You know, looking forward, rumors circulating constantly about Gus Malzahn if he's going to go to his alma mater, Arkansas, and take that open coaching position. So really, Auburn has a ton of questions going on right now. Who's going to coach him in the bowl game if Gus decides to leave? Does Gus get a bigger offer from Arkansas or Auburn? It's going to be an interesting bowl selection show Sunday, and it's going to be very, very, very entertaining to watch these next few weeks and months unfold, especially within the SEC. So with that being said, also we have to throw it in Auburn's rival, Alabama. With Auburn's loss, they're sitting pretty on the edge, looking for one more team. They got one team to lose that they needed help from. Where do you guys see Alabama going to?
You know, it all depends on how this Big Ten championship shakes out tonight. If Wisconsin wins, they're in, absolutely no question about it. Alabama's on the outside looking in. But if Ohio State ends up getting the win, there's going to be that conversation. 2-loss Ohio State, 1-loss Alabama. I think Alabama's definitely going to get in if that's going to be the case eventually. If the Buckeyes can defeat the Badgers tonight in Indianapolis. But you look at Alabama, their resume is a lot better than Ohio State's. Neither team has great wins,
right,
JJ,
yeah.
But you look at both Ohio State and Alabama, big names, big name coaches especially, but I think what keeps Ohio State out of the playoff, if they are to win tonight, is that big loss on the road at Iowa.
Of the 2, Ohio State has the best win with their win over Penn State earlier in the year, and then if they're able to defeat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, that's a huge win for them. I'll just say this much. I'm glad I'm not on the committee. I'm glad the 3 of us aren't having to make decisions, because to determine what 4 teams deserve to play in the playoffs, that's a tough question right there.
And I know Auburn, even though they are a 3-loss team, Malzahn will be hoping they make a case for that 4th and final spot, having those wins over Georgia. Yes, they lost to them again tonight, but also that win over Alabama. If Alabama gets in, they're going to want to be pushing the question, why are we not in? And they're in as well. But going forward, you got Kerryon Johnson injured, and we have an unknown opponent coming ahead. What are y'all's thoughts about who the Tigers will exactly play? Any ideas, any guesses?
Really, these two last games tonight, Big Ten and ACC, just determine everything. I just don't see any real scenario where we can reasonably predict a single or even two opponents. There's going to be so much shakeup just depending on what happens in these last couple games.
You know, I could really see Auburn, facing a Big Ten team. I think that is what the committee is going to push for, is an SEC versus Big Ten, just because there's so much conversation in the media and around the nation. Who's the more powerful conference? And I think right now those two teams are making a very good case that both of them are. So I think they're going to want to push for a Big Ten versus SEC game, and I could see Auburn getting stuck right in the middle of that game, either playing Ohio State, depending how the night works, Wisconsin, or Penn State, which if anybody knows me, I'm from Pennsylvania, that is the least likely option I want to happen. So any final thoughts on this last night? Auburn's going to have at least almost a month off. What do you guys think is going to come within the next month?
As you said, it'll be interesting to see what we see continuing in the Gus Malzahn saga. But as JJ and I talked about earlier, these players that got injured tonight, especially the key three, Kerryon Johnson didn't get hurt tonight, but he definitely wasn't healthy. And then coming out in the second half, Carlton Davis and Trey Williams on defense weren't able to play the rest of the game. The health of those two going forward is going to be so important.
Yeah, that's going to be really important.
Let me add this one thing in. Now that, Auburn has that time off, you could see Cam Petway back in the lineup for the bowl game, which could make the Auburn run game much more dangerous going into that bowl season.
Yeah, it's a shame they didn't have that luxury all season long with both of them being healthy. Phenomenal season nonetheless for Kerryon Johnson. And a great opportunity for Auburn, for the three of us to be standing here at an SEC championship game. It didn't go the way Tiger fans would have hoped, but nonetheless an exciting day, great game here in Atlanta.
Well, guys, that's all we have from the post-game show here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You can tune into Eagle Eye tomorrow for our live bowl selection show to find out where these teams fall. Evan and I will be giving our predictions at the top of the show, and we'll be discussing all matchups all day long. So from all of us here in Atlanta, Georgia, good night.